want to take a second to talk to you about underdogs.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird game nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man Saul Jackson like Sean, Hunting like Randolph. Season here, early time to do them in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.
We're going to try that again. What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, Joe Castro, a.k.a. Philly Fresco. That is Philly, the podcast. So we in here, man. We in here. Today we are going to have Brandon Gowton coming on around 12:30. So we're going to go rock for about a half hour and just chop it up. I want to talk a little bit about things that we've been seeing. The PFF releases their top 10 rankings for defensive line. The Eagles sneak right in, So the Eagles, we're looking good. Obviously, we got the fastest man, the third fastest man in recorded history, apparently, on our team. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get into other things. We'll see what's going on. We'll see what's popping. Shout out to everybody already in the chat, man. We're going to have some fun. We're going to definitely talk and chop it up. But before we do, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family, share this with your friends. I never say share it, but, let's start sharing stuff. Why not? Sharing is caring. But shout out to my guy, One Above All. D3 Springs was the first one in here. Drew Johnson in here. Jeremiah Butler, Nina Alston, what's going on? One Above All says, yo, Joe, what's good? My bad on not getting back at you on fantasy football. How do I pay? Oh, just hit me up. If you have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just either way, any way that you can hit me up, any way you can contact me. I did leave my phone number on one of the community posts. So if you go to one of the community posts, you can see that there. But I want to get into this, and we're going to talk more about this. So I'm not going to go too deep into it with Brandon Gowton. I want to talk a little bit and see how he feels about it. But I do want to talk about the defensive line being ranked number 9. They have us at number 9 out of 10, right? So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what this defensive line actually is, what they're asked to do. Are they going to still, because we're used to our defensive line, at least for the past decade, almost it feels like, they just been asked to be the guys that disrupt the quarterback. We don't necessarily send pressure. Last year, I think we sent pressure at a historically low clip. So I don't know if that's going to be, turned on its head and we're going to become this crazy rushing team. But it's going to be interesting to see what this defensive line does and how much they can actually do with Jonathan Gannon's system, because it felt like even at times they didn't even ask him to be defensive lineman. Sometimes we saw Fletcher Cox on, little screenplay. Like, it just made no sense. I had no idea what was going on. Hopefully they're right, PFF. They have their analytics and everything, so I know they crunch numbers. And talking about Hassan Riddick, I think he's 15th in QB pressures since he's been in the league, so that's cool and everything. I hope that he does bring that. Fletcher Cox, we'll see what happens. If Fletcher Cox can get back to where he was, we should be in that top 10. We should be even better. And then you look at Jordan Davis, you look at Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave came out firing on all cylinders last year, right? Last year he was going crazy. Let's get the chat up here. I'm gonna actually put the chat up because we'll talk. We'll talk while y'all. Oh, so it's not gonna show me the chat. Of course, now everything in Restream is just not working for me right now. Of course. I tried though. You gotta love Restream. I'm getting used to it. But either way, but look, you look at this team, and like I said, they should probably even be ahead of number 9. You look at the players that we've added. I need to see more from Josh Sweat. Obviously, he didn't have a terrible year. I want to see him grow. Derek Barnett is an interesting situation because he's buried now on the depth chart, right? So we'll see what happens with that. And then Hassan Riddick, like I said, he should be able to go out there and really bring some fire, but we'll see what happens. Jeremiah Butler says we should be top 5 run defense, maybe 9 overall. I hope top 5 overall. You're talking about run defense alone. Our run defense needs to get better. Last year, our run defense was atrocious, especially for the Eagles. The Eagles are used to having, stout run defense, mainly because you have Fletcher Cox in that middle, and we were usually able to pair him with somebody that at the very least was good in the run game. I felt like we always, or I shouldn't say we always, but we've never really had, a guy across from Fletcher Cox outside of Javon Hargrave that you could be like, oh, that dude's a beast. Javon Hargrave, and he's on his last year, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. What's going on, Scott Bates? What's going on? What's going on, brother? But I mean, we'll see what happens. I like this defensive line. I'm more afraid of Jonathan Gannon. That's what kind of worries me about this whole scenario. Like, yeah, we should be good, right? We should be good. We should go out there and we should win some games. We should, defensively be a lot better. But will Jonathan Gannon utilize his players properly? Can I speak properly? But will he utilize his players properly? Will he go out there and come out with different schemes according to the teams? And I haven't seen that. I didn't see that last year. There's not much to see that I'm like, very high on him right now, but we'll see what happens, man. Michael DeJean says, how true is the Metcalf trade? Metcalf to where? Metcalf to where? I forget exactly where it was. I mean, from what I've seen, I've only seen one publication put it out, so I've already forgot the actual team that he's supposed to be going to. Was it the Cowboys? Was it Are you talking about that one? Because I've seen another one outside of the Cowboys. I did see a bunch of content creators saying that they should get DK Metcalf, but the Cowboys, I highly doubt that happens. If that was gonna happen, you would have just paid Amari, like you would have just kept Amari, or you would have got a better trade out of him. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, you didn't want to pay Amari. You don't really necessarily want to pay your players overall, and most of the time, we should say, right? So I don't know. I don't see the Cowboys going out on a limb, but if it's a different team, let me know. Jeremiah says BG's production was sorely missed in the run impact. Yeah. But Brandon Graham is very, very underrated for what he brought to this team. And I'll even say prior to this year, I knew that he was a big part of our defense and our defensive line, even if it's just for the attitude he brings and the craziness that he brings to the field. But at the same time, I didn't realize he made that much of a difference. Like, when he went out, our run defense was just terrible. And you can attribute that to our linebackers not being that great as well. You can attribute that to Milton Williams kind of taking a little while to kind of really come on. But yeah, he was sorely missed last year. And shout out to Tone. I was on Tone DeShield's channel yesterday, and we kind of made a joke about this. But even his attitude off the field last year, I feel like won us a game or two. So it's going to be, even though Brandon Graham is in his late 30s now, right? Or his mid 30s, I should say. It's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out with him and how much he even sees the field. Like, that's really the defensive line is one of the most interesting positions groups in general, just because it's like there's so many different types of players and you want to do these different types of things. You have three realistically starting defensive tackles, two of which who have played nose tackle, because Javon Hargrave has played nose tackle. That's where he came from in Steelers, or what he came from with the Steelers, I should say. And then you look at, obviously, Jordan Davis, and then you have a Fletcher Cox that's just an all-world player. It's going to be very interesting. I said this yesterday again on Tone's channel, and I believe this may be true. If Jordan Davis can prove that he's a 3-down, defensive tackle, if he can prove he's the number one guy, I would not be surprised to see like a Fletcher Cox trade or a Javon Hargrave trade. Obviously, both of them are in their last year, so I would not be surprised. I really would not be surprised. Michael DeJean says, we have at least 13 million left. Would you try to go after Bates with the money and extend him? I would love that. I would love that. But that goes into what I just kind of said as well, right? That's kind of what I said as well. If you look at not because it's my last name. Now, I respect that. Hey, maybe that's your cousin. Maybe you got to get some tickets if he does come to the Philly. But no, I would love for him to come to this team, man. We are, and this is, again, something I was talking about, and it's like, you look at that position, that's an obvious position of strength, right? The defensive tackle spot. Would you be willing to say, all right, Fletch, Jordan Davis is going to take over full time anyway, so let's put you on a team that is a contending team, because going to the Bengals is nothing to scoff at, right? The Bengals just came from going to the Super Bowl. So maybe you say, all right, we'll send you to the Dolphins, to the Bengals, and we get Jesse Bates back. I think you could do that head up. I wouldn't be mad at that being a heads up trade, to be honest with you. And then, yeah, you extend them. So I would do it. I would do it. But I think that's something you do in week 3, week 4. You know what I'm saying? When you start kind of week 5, maybe 6, when you start seeing what your team is, right? Like, once you start seeing like, all right, yeah, Jordan Davis is really coming on these first couple weeks. He's the guy we want to run with. Then you make that call and you get the value out of the player that you need to. But part of me says that they would probably do Javon Hargrave before they would do Fletcher Cox, just because I don't know if they really plan on keeping Javon Hargrave. I hope they are. I really truly hope that they are planning on bringing him back, and I hope that they extend him before the season even starts. But we'll see. Yeah, if you found out that he was your cousin or something, imagine he was like your cousin or something, you never knew. Time to come on board. Yeah, I think everybody would be happy to get Jesse Bates. I was about to say Scott Bates. I think everybody would be excited to get Jesse Bates. And realistically, if you're looking at this team, the safety position on paper at least is the only position that you're sitting there and you're looking at and you're like, I'm a little bit nervous. There's not like that, cream of the crop. There's not that top level guy. You can even say at the linebacking position, right? You got like a N'Kobe Dean, a TJ Edwards, a Davion Taylor that you feel comfortable with. I feel comfortable with those three guys, and you can even go deep as Kaiser White. You can say that you feel comfortable with other guys, but I think that there's a solid 3-4 guys like your starters. I feel comfortable with. Right. I don't know. I like Epps. I do. I like Marcus Epps a lot. And I know a lot of people are really excited to see him, kind of grow as a player. Right. And I am too. I think when he's out there, he hits hard. Like he always pops somebody. And I love to see that. I think everybody loves to see that. But at the same time, Anthony Harris, I'm not doing backflips because we brought Anthony Harris back. So I don't know. We'll see. I kind of would have rather brought McLeod back, but that kind of shows you what this team kind of wants to be. I've said that it was about age, but even more so than that, you look at the flexibility of what McLeod could have been. McLeod was kind of, that deep safety, in my opinion. So I don't know if they're going to be asking these cornerbacks to do that or these safeties to do that. Excuse me. Scott said he'll go play. Yeah, we might need you, man. If Hurts don't work out this year, would you use the 2 first-round picks for a quarterback? Yeah, I mean, it depends on who, right? It depends on who, and it depends on what you mean by don't work out. Do it because it's so hard to really put expectations on Jalen Hurts this early in the offseason. Like I don't know. It's really tough to know what doesn't work out means, because I will say this. I think that Nick Sirianni has a plan in place to make this team a contending team. I think that being top 12, I think we were number 12, I believe, as a scoring offense. That's nothing to scoff at, especially with our deficiencies, right? He wanted to be a passing team. That was pretty obvious when he came into this league or when he came into this city, and it didn't work out. He made a change and he was able to still kind of salvage the season. So, um, I think that I don't know what working out is for Hurts. Is it winning a playoff game? Because that's kind of more on the team to me. It's hard to really say. It's really really hard to say. I've been very critical of Hurts, but at the same time, I kind of understand the business side of it. That if he's going to save you like $10 million on a quarterback, if you're going to go and get somebody that's not an obvious upgrade and have to pay them $35 million, where you can get a Jalen Hurts and maybe get him for 30, maybe get him cheaper, probably not, but maybe you do. That opens up doors down the road. That opens up opportunities for you down the road to then go continue to build this team. So I don't know what working out is for him. And I know that's kind of a cop out, right? But I don't know. I guess we'll see. I still feel Hurts should be our QB too. I've said that if we were going to go after somebody like a Russell Wilson or any veteran quarterback, to be honest, I think that it would be smart to keep Jalen Hurts. Why not? If you're going to go get a guy that in 2-3 years you don't plan for him to continue to be your quarterback, I think that grooming somebody like a Jalen Hurts under a Russell Wilson would have been a great idea. I think that would have been the best situation for everybody involved. Maybe an Aaron Rodgers. I don't think now it's still a possibility or even really on their thought process. I think they would look more towards the draft, because there are some guys in this draft, at least right now, that people like. So we'll see what happens. Should we go after Baker Mayfield? No, I do not want Baker Mayfield. I don't think that he's an obvious upgrade. Me and James are doing our top 32, which I think I still have here. Yeah, so we're doing our top 32 right now. We only got to number 16 on Saturday. We're gonna get to the top 15, but I bring this up to say this. You know what I'm saying? I need an obvious upgrade over Jalen Hurts. I got Baker Mayfield all the way down here. Let me take this down real quick. I got Baker Mayfield at number 23. I don't think that he's an obvious upgrade to Jalen Hurts. Obviously, I put him as a downgrade. So I wouldn't want Baker Mayfield. You have to be a top 16, or I wouldn't even take Matt Ryan, to be honest with you, like, because he's old. Like, Mac Jones obviously isn't leaving his team, and then we'll get to the top, 15 when we get there. But he has to be an obvious upgrade. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think that it's like a sideways step. Marvin, I don't know if I'm like, if you're just adding new channels. Why do you never have a wrench when you come in here? Nathan, I feel like I've seen your name. You get a wrench. Jimmy Garoppolo, same thing. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You have to give me an obvious upgrade. And those guys just aren't obvious upgrades for me. I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. You got to be a top 15 guy. You got to be somebody that I know is going to be here for the long haul, somebody that I trust. And Jimmy G's not that guy for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Marvin says, I think we're fine. Hertz appreciates finally being in the same system for more than 1 year since high school. Yeah, I think that, that's going to play a big part, and we'll see what happens. I think that the system's probably going to change a little bit, which it's the same coach. So hopefully that's, more of what we're meaning along those lines, same staff and everything. So you're not having to change total terms and everything, because that's really what it is. Most offenses, in my opinion, and I could be wrong about this, obviously I'm not a head coach, but from what I've learned about, football, it seems like a lot of teams just do the same thing. They just have different ways of calling it, different ways of saying it. Maybe some teams have more intricate, trees, more options for their wide receivers. But for the most part, I think it's the same thing. Who's your top? You never got a wrench, my guy. Oh, my bad. I got you. Hurt Swag Cali, you got a wrench. Uh, who's my top 15? I'm gonna drop it on Saturday. So Saturday, we usually do it. We usually do best of enemies on Sunday at 11:30, but unfortunately, I have to be somewhere on Sunday, so we're gonna move it to Saturday. It's gonna be Saturday at 11:30 a.m. So definitely drop through. It's gonna be dope. I'm excited for that. I am definitely excited for that, and I think that you guys are gonna agree with my top 15. I don't think my top 15 is too crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then we're gonna go from that. We're probably gonna do like running backs or maybe wide receivers next. It's fun because it's cool getting the opposite ends. Because I will say, I'm sure James doesn't mind me doing this, but James put Jalen Hurts at the exact same spot as I did. He has him at 18. I have him at 18. So we went into this, and we obviously didn't talk about what we were going to do with our lists or anything like that. But we went into this kind of trying to see how far off we were. And even with Dak Prescott, there was like one big difference with me and him when it came to Dak Prescott and where I put him. So that's going to probably be the most interesting, us kind of arguing about that, because I know he was upset about the player that I put ahead of him. But that's what happens, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We're the best of enemies for something, right? We're the best of enemies for a reason. But I don't know. I feel like this is a team that I'm excited, right? But I'm cautiously optimistic, because we've been here before. We've been here before with this team where we've gotten all excited, gotten all high and mighty, and then they went out there and crapped the bed. What really scares me is just the defense. That's really all that scares me. I do feel like we have the players now in place, but the coaching is just really what scares me. I get a little bit nervous that, a Tracy Rocker came to a team that had a top 5 in sacks and brought us to the bottom 5. I get nervous about that. I get nervous that Jonathan Gannon really didn't show me anything. Really didn't show me any halftime adjustments. Really didn't show me anything, the ability to change the defensive scheme throughout the year. So I don't know. That's the only thing that gets me worried. That really truly is the only thing that gets me worried, is that we're not going to be ready. We're not going to be ready defensively to use what we have. But I hope I'm wrong. I definitely hope I'm wrong. We shall see. This is going to be a very interesting year. And shout out to Devon Allen. I wanted to talk about this before we do bring on Brandon Gowton. Devon Allen went out there, ran his tail off. Third fastest recorded time, I believe, in the event. That's dope. I don't think that he's really, I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think about him, because I don't think he's going to make this roster. I think that it's like a lot of, it's fun to hear. It's a cool story and everything, but I don't think that it's really going to amount to anything. He's like 27, I just don't see it. I think it's a cool story. I think that's about it. I think that it would add another Cub Scout badge to, Howie Roseman's, whatever that they wear in the Cub Scouts. I think that's about it. I don't really see it being a guy that really sticks on with the roster for that long. I just don't. maybe practice team. Possibly, but it's like, do you put a 27-year-old on your practice squad? I don't know if you're even allowed to. I don't know if it goes by age. I think it goes by years in the actual NFL. So I'm pretty sure they can. But like you signed him to a 3-year deal. I'm pretty sure. I think is what they did. I don't know. What is his role? What is his role? Just as a special teams guy? I think that Brenton Covey probably fills that role better. Just looking at his film, it looks like Brenton Covey's a really good, special teams guy, good punt returner, kick returner. So I don't know. Maybe practice team though. Maybe you never know. Gannon, he really doesn't mind watching us get beat like a drum and making no changes. That's my thing. I've made the joke a lot. But it's not really a joke. We look like Jim Schwartz third and fourth and long defense almost every play. We're just giving up, 5-6 yards of free space every play. I hate it. Cool story for sure. Probably won't make the practice squad. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know, but Covey is slower. Covey's definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people in the NFL that are slower than Devon Allen right now. But it takes more than speed to just be a return. It really does. It takes more than just speed to be a return man. So it takes the vision. It takes the breakaway speed. It takes the quickness. It takes the cutting. You have to be able to read the field, read your blocks. It takes a lot. You know what I'm saying? So straightaway speed doesn't do everything. It's not the end all be all because 99% of the time in the NFL you are not running a straight line. So that straight line speed is cool, but it's not really the end all be all to me. Drew says, I have to see some of his tape other than highlights. Allen hasn't played for a while. He hasn't gotten any time because he had COVID too, right? Project again. They both. I mean, if you look at, and I don't know too much about their story, so I don't want to sit here and act like I do. But, from what I do know of Brenton Covey, he went in and out of school, due to personal reasons and stuff. And, he was performing. Every time he went back into school, he was performing at a high level. So, I don't know. What's going on, Uno? What's going on? Says, what up, Castro? The Eagles signed him to a 3-year deal, so he's going to be here. I think his ceiling is being a Pro Bowl kick returner. But besides that, I don't know where else he can contribute. Yeah, Devon Allen has that 3-year deal. I don't know how, concrete that is because we've seen people sign a lot of different deals. But we'll see. I hope so. It's a great story. So I definitely am hoping the best for him. And the Eagles need special teamers. We definitely need return guys. It's crazy because we were so used to getting, Dave Phipp. When Dave Phipp was here outside of the last couple years, he was killing it. Dave Phipp was really killing it. And then we've just went downhill. I have no idea what happened to our special teams. It has been terrible. I'm not going to lie. It's been kind of sucky to watch. It's been terrible to watch. But and not just that it's been terrible to watch, with obviously just not the best of play when it comes to punting, not the best of play when it comes to punt coverage, and just putting the wrong guys out there when it comes to returning. Like we've seen guys out there that just shouldn't be out there. It is what it is. So I don't know. And then we've seen guys that should be out there just not performing to the level that they should. Practice squad at best, and maybe a kick returner, but he ain't gonna be some wide receiver demon. Yeah, I don't think it would be cool. It would be definitely cool if he, comes in and makes a cool little story for himself. I'm sure all of us would be hyped to see that. It would be a great storyline. You know what I'm saying? It would be a great storyline. And like I said, it would be on another notch onto Howie's belt. And I think he would love that. I think if we all know something about Howie, it's that he loves to add notches to his belt. So that would be another one that he could definitely add to it. I wouldn't mind. I would not mind. He seems like a cool dude. After he did run that record time, he said fly Eagles fly. So, I'm with it. I'm definitely with it. I hope he does well. But return team contributor, yeah. I think that Brenton Covey's more of an option. In my opinion, if you want to get a guy that's solely going to be that, I would look at it, Brenton Covey. I love what I've seen from Brenton Covey. And like I said, maybe I need to go a little bit more in depth and see what else he can do. But that's what their job is. You see who has a little bit more. 3-year deal means nothing. I'm sure there's no money attached to the deal, so they can walk away. Yeah, I'm sure there's an out. There's always an out. There's always an out. If you know anything about NFL teams, especially the owners, they love their money, right? They enjoy having that money, so they look for ways to ensure that they have it in the long run. So I'm sure Devon Allen is I'm sure none of this is a coincidence, right? Like he didn't just randomly get signed by the Eagles because they really liked him. And oh wow, that's crazy. You have all these track meets that are getting national, television and all this publicity. That's crazy. Wow, it's not a coincidence in my opinion. It could be. Right, it could be, but I don't think it's a coincidence. I think they knew what was going to happen. This is good TV. This is good publicity. This is good for the brand. This is good for the patch. So I like it. I like it. I'm not mad at it. This is good publicity, right? We could be out there getting terrible publicity. Covey's the best return. What's going on, Marina? Covey's the best return prospect the Eagles have ever had besides Deshaun. You can say that. You could definitely say that. Rager, I think, should be a way better punt returner. He's just not. But he hasn't performed. I'm not going to say he's not, but he just hasn't performed as consistently as we want him to. Because you did put him back there, and he did get us a touchdown, I believe. Yeah, I mean it's tough to really. I would really have to go through who our punt returners have been, but Westbrook was a pretty good punt returner. Obviously, I was before Jackson. Um, yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that's fair to say. I'm trying to really think. I think that's fair to say. We'll see if he even gets on the field, though. We'll see how much they really care about that. That's going to be interesting too, because you start learning more about your team with the more power that they get and the more opportunities the coaches and everything get to kind of mold the team to what they want it to be. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they like and what they want this team to be in the long run. Some teams just don't care about special teams. Some teams just really don't care. Some teams, focus 110% of their energy on offense or on defense, and we've seen it. So it'll be very interesting to see what this Eagles front office is and what this team is about because we really don't know yet. Uno says, now that Minka set the market for safety, do you think we trade for a safety before this season starts? Um, he did get a bag. He did get a bag. I don't know. I just don't think that the Eagles are going to. I don't think even if that didn't happen, the Eagles were interested in getting a safety prior to the season. I think they would like to see what they have. And I think that they want to see where they have expendable value. Like I said earlier, like maybe you look at that defensive tackle room and say, look, Jordan Davis is just not coming off of our field. So we got to, maybe get a little value out of one of these, veterans. But we'll see what happens. It could be interesting. Minka got his money. Minka got his money, and I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. And he should throw me like $20. I would love $20. But either way, today we do have a special guest. Like I said, I'm excited to have him back on. It's been 10 months. So I had to say that out loud. It's been 10 months, way too long since I've had my guy Brandon on. So we're going to bring him on right now. Brandon, how's it going, man? Can you hear me?
Joe, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How have you been? It has been far too long, my man.
I'm good too. I will also take $20 from Minka Fitzpatrick if he's in the giving mood. I just want to put that out there right now.
Yeah, we could split $20 at this point. I really don't. Give me something, maybe autograph it, then the value goes up. But no, it's an honor to have you back on. Like I said, it has been far too long, man. You're killing it over there. I appreciate all the work that you have been putting out. But I want to talk about this Eagles offseason a little bit, right? So we'll jump right into it. I know you have a lot of things to do. So what are your thoughts about this Eagles offseason so far? Like how high or low are you on the moves that they've been able to make?
It's hard to hate it too much, right? A lot of good moves. I think, for as much criticism as Howie Roseman has gotten, and I think he's deserved a lot in the past, to be clear, just because he had a good offseason this season, doesn't mean it invalidated all the concerns. But to his credit, I mean, I think you can point out for me, like the Fletcher Cox re-signing, didn't love that. The Derek Barnett re-signing, didn't love that. Don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But beyond that, I mean, all of these other moves, trading for A.J. Brown, adding an extra first-round pick in 2023 and the second-round pick in 2024 from the Saints to have that flexibility to either add more young pieces or if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out this year, to have that ability to pivot, adding Hassan Reddick, who there's only four players in the NFL that have more sacks than him the past two seasons. Like, Howie made a lot of good moves. So it's a pretty strong offseason for this team.
Definitely. And I want to kind of focus on the defense a little bit, and especially the defensive line. You put out an article this morning talking about how PFF has the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line ranked at number 9. I want to kind of ask you, looking at all the pieces and how they add up, I don't think you're alone in your feelings on Derek Barnett by any means. Trust me, I think there's a lot of people in Eagles Nation that feel that way. But I want to ask you, how integral do you, because we're used to it as Eagles fans, this defensive line kind of be in the face of almost the team, how integral is this defensive line success going to be for the, team overall success?
Yeah, I'm interested to see, how they really use these guys because there's some new faces. How is Hassan Reddick, who I just mentioned, going to be used exactly? Because the Eagles created separate rooms. He's not just a defensive end. Like they created a position group just for those stand-up pass rushing linebackers, those Sam linebackers. And I'm curious to see, are they going to overthink this and like have that guy dropping into coverage more than he should be? I hope not, because he's really good at rushing the passer. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for not, or for now, until we see otherwise. But there's that. How does Jordan Davis factor in? And are they going to more, of a 3-4 front with him and some of the other pieces that they added, like Hassan Reddick? So there's a lot of questions here. I think they have the potential to be really effective because I think Fletcher Cox had probably his worst season last year, but he's still Fletcher Cox. He's still, a above average player. Javon Hargrave, we've seen him be able to really turn it on. Would like to see some more consistency, but he can have some really hot stretches there. I mentioned Jordan Davis. Milton Williams is in year 2, kind of being maybe slept on a little bit there. Your 4th defensive tackle. So Brandon Graham is coming back. We'll see what he is coming off an injury and being older, but having him back is better than not having him at all. So, there's potential for it to be a pretty good offensive line. I don't know that it's, like best in the NFL, but PFF ranked them at 9, top 10. And I think that's what they are right now.
Yeah, I think it was fair, and I think a lot of people would agree that it's fair, especially coming off the down year that we did on that defensive line, which just it hurts to be honest. It hurts. We go from like top 5 in sacks to going to bottom 5. It's like my head was spinning, and I hated to see it, so I want to see that improve. But you brought up Jordan Davis, right? And Jordan Davis is a guy that is getting a lot of attention, rightfully so, but in a lot of ways, you can look at him and say he's probably the 3rd guy on that depth chart. I wanted to kind of ask you, what do you think he has to do to kind of show the coaching staff, I guess, that he should stay on that field? And in turn, what does that kind of mean for a guy like Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargrave? Like you said, we might be switching to a 3-4, and unless you're planning on maybe moving them outside or something like that, you only have one interior defensive lineman. So what does he have to do, and what does that mean if he does do that?
Yeah, the Eagles don't play their defensive tackles necessarily like other teams in turn. And it's like they're 80% of the defensive snaps. I think Fletcher caught the team last year, and I'm pulling it up right here. And he was like in the 60s. He was at, around that range. So he was at 66.43. So, this is a guy who's not going to be playing, a ton of snaps just because of how often or how frequently the Eagles like to rotate their defensive tackles. I think, Jordan Davis is going to be a really interesting player to watch on this team because what was all the criticism of Georgia? Oh, he's too heavy. He didn't play pass rushing down. Sacks weren't there. And I think you have to be careful about making excuses, but I think there are some valid reasons here in terms of Jordan Davis playing in a kind of 2-gapping Georgia scheme where they didn't exactly let their pass rushers just fly up the field. Like Trayvon Walker, was the number 1 pick, and he didn't have great sack production. A lot of their defensive linemen, Devontae Wyatt, also a 1st-round pick, didn't have great sack production. I think that's kind of the scheme they played. And also the reality of just, and this is something Howie Roseman talked about, having so much talent on that Georgia defense and being so good as a team overall that they would get up big in these games and they wouldn't really play their starters late in the games because they're trying to play the recruits and everything to try to convince them not to transfer to other schools. So there's a lot of different factors in there. I think Jordan Davis, I think the impact that he has, maybe won't necessarily see it always show up in the stat sheet as much as, he's really making things easier for his teammates. He's making his teammates better because he's drawing extra attention and he's allowing Jonathan Gannon. He's making Jonathan Gannon better because Jonathan Gannon doesn't have to use as many resources potentially in coverage or elsewhere.
Definitely, yeah. And, you bring up Jonathan Gannon, which is a guy that a lot of people are talking about right now, especially in, the Eagles fan community. Obviously wasn't the best of defensive years. We it is what it is. I won't I won't get too deep into it. But with Jonathan Gannon, I've been asked a very, very good question that I really didn't know, but you are there more. You see a little, you see more of it. And the question is, do you think that Jonathan Gannon has this defense bought in? Do you think they believe in him as their head coach?
I think, it's a weird evaluation for the Eagles last year in terms of how they did defensively because we saw them look good in some games, right? Like
Yeah.
to their credit, they never really got torn up by like a bad quarterback, which people will be like, well, okay, you shouldn't get a gold star for that. And I agree. But I mean, there are teams that like, still lose to the bad quarterback. So at least they didn't do that. But they absolutely got destroyed by the really good ones and allowing, 80% completion to 5 different quarterbacks and almost more. So other guys were in the high 70s. So I do think it seems like they figured out things, especially a little bit more later in the year. Obviously, not really so much necessarily in that last game against the Bucks, although that wasn't only on the defense. Some offensive issues there as well. Obviously, they didn't score any points when the game was still meaningful. So yeah, I think the biggest thing to me is I would argue the Eagles underperformed their defensive talent last year. Not to say they should have been the best defense in the NFL, but I don't think you can look at what they had and said, wow, this team really overachieved. I don't think that's the case. And I think now that they added all this talent, you bring in Jordan Davis, you bring in Kobe Dean, Hassan Reddick, you sign Kaiser White, you have all this going for James Bradbury. There really isn't a good excuse for him to have that again where the defense is underperforming. So you would like to see at least playing to their level and ideally, obviously, especially if this guy's going to get head coaching interviews, actually like outperforming their talent level. So there's a lot of pressure on him this year. There's no really good excuse for this defense to be bad.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Jonathan Gannon, yeah, he's got a lot of talent out there, and I know that that is the excuse a lot of people like to. I don't want to say excuse, but that's the reasoning a lot of people give to why it went bad is that they didn't have necessarily the guys he wanted. We'll see. He has every every type of guy in the world now, right? You have so many different types of players, so many different types of athletes, right? And I want to kind of ask you about this linebacking group. You have all these different guys. You have a guy like obviously a Kyron Johnson, you have a Kaiser White, you got a Nakobe Dean. We can go down the list, all so good at different things. What do you think they're really going to be asking out of this linebacking core? Do you think it's going to be like what type of scheme are they going to be using with these guys? Is it going to be like situational, or is it they're just going to pick their favorite three? And like, how do you see all that shaking up?
I really think they're only going to use two primarily, and if we're talking about like most of the time. That's what we saw in OTAs, and that's just some spring practices. It doesn't mean the world, but just the early sign, the early look is that Kaiser White and TJ Edwards were the top two linebackers. And again, that doesn't even necessarily guarantee Kaiser White will be on the team because in years past, the Eagles signed these free agent linebackers, Corey Nelson, LJ Fort, Zach Brown, you name it, and they don't even make the team. I think White is probably a better player than those guys, and he got more money than those guys, so I think there's a good chance he sticks around. But I could see him getting demoted potentially, if Kobe Dean really steps up. I think, each of those guys have different strengths, right? Like Kobe Dean, I think he's really underrated as a blitzer. That was something he did really well at Georgia, and I think the Eagles want to tap into that. I think TJ Edwards is really good as a run stopper, so you're going to see him do that. He's a really good tackler. Isn't the best guy in coverage in terms of athleticism, but he's a smart player and knows where to be. So I think there's a lot of value in that. I think Kaiser White, has a lot of athleticism, and I think that is a guy, ideally, you would kind of like to match up at certain points, on these athletic tight ends because he has the ability to kind of run with those guys, or maybe you blitz him too and kind of trust his athleticism to make plays. So they kind of have different skill sets here, and it'll be interesting to see how the snap counts shake out there. I would say I think people are a little too high on the Kobe Dean, and just in terms of like the usage he might get right away, because I think Edwards is still going to be a part of this defense. I think people are sleeping on him a little bit and assuming he's just going to go away just because they added Dean and White. But I think all three of those guys are going to get a decent amount of snaps.
Okay, that's interesting to hear because that has been a lot. I will say, obviously, I like to talk to my chat a lot and just like kind of see what they're feeling. But that has been kind of the overall feeling. It feels like a lot of Eagles fans think that Nakobe Dean's going to just kind of stay. And I'm guilty as well. Kind of just thought he was going to step in there and take that role. It's interesting to hear that you think maybe TJ Edwards has more of a foot in there than we're kind of giving credit for. That's interesting. That's definitely interesting. Now, the question I want to ask to kind of close out the defensive side of this is we always hear about Jalen Hurts, right? We on the offensive side, that's kind of the guy that if he has a great year, we all expect this team to be very good. But on the defensive side, is there a guy like that? Do you think, do you look at one of these guys and say, look, if he steps it up, if he has a great year, this defense is going to go somewhere? Is there anybody like that on our defense?
Well, I think I'll go with the one that I don't know if I have a lot of confidence it will happen, but if it could happen, it would be huge. And that's, Marcus Epps. Like the Eagles safety, we all know that's a big question mark. And question mark is putting it nicely. I mean, the way I like to put it is you bring back Anthony Harris on a $2.5 million salary. Okay, that's half of what he got paid last year. So the Eagles really, aren't feeling super hot about him if they're basically bringing him back on a big pay cut. And then Marcus Epps, who I think has shown some things. I don't think he is hopeless by any means. I kind of think he might be more ideal as like a third safety, a role player, a guy you can kind of come in and do some certain things as opposed to playing him every single down. I don't know about that, but I'm interested to see. I think that there is some reason why the Eagles have some level of optimism about him. And to be clear, they're not just like fired up about this guy at all costs because they tried to sign Marcus Williams. I'm sure they had interest in Justin Reed. They still might have interest in Jesse Bates, who knows? So it's possible he's not even starting week one. It's possible they bring in someone. But for now, Marcus Epps is that first team safety next to Anthony Harris. And I think it's not out of the realm of possibility he could kind of develop into, and even if, let's say he's not an all pro or pro bowler, but like even if he's a solid starter, you'll take that. So I'm kind of interested to see what he can do in training camp.
Yeah, that's very fair. That is very fair. It'll be interesting. Once you said Jesse Bates, I think everybody in the chat stood up out there and was like, hold on. Oh, no, we're not making no breaking news. But now I want to ask you two more questions that I will get you out of here, brother. I want to ask you, we're going into this, training camp. Obviously, we have a little bit of a lull, like a 2-month lull, but I think I speak for all of us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're excited to have Eagles football back. But what camp battles are you maybe already kind of anxious to watch, ready to kind of see get going?
Yeah, well, I definitely want to see how it shakes out at linebacker. That's really interesting. We kind of talked about that already. Tight end's kind of a big one too. Like obviously Goddard's the guy, and for the first time ever, because Zach Ertz is gone. Yeah. But who's the backup guy? Because God forbid something happened to Dallas Goedert. Like, can Jack Stoll handle being a starter? Can Grant Calcaterra, who retired at one point because he had a lot of concussion issues, can he be anything? So I'm interested to see the depth of that position. That'll be really interesting. How defensive tackle, but behind the snap counts behind Fletcher Cox there, and Javon Hargrave. Interested to see that. All of that. The slot receiver, like how's the receiver rotation going to work out? Because I think a lot of people would assume who are your number three guys, top three guys. It's AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and Quez Watkins. But I think this coaching staff likes Zach Pascal a lot, and I think he's going to rotate in there. Might not be above Quez overall in terms of playing time, but he's going to play a decent amount. How does Jalen Reagor fit into the roster? He shouldn't be on the team, in my opinion, but he's still here. So all of that.
Yeah, I really love Quez. I'm a huge fan of Quez Watkins. I think he's one of the biggest slept on players on this team. You look at what we asked him to do last year. You look at what we're going to ask him to do this year. Like you said, probably a slot, position type thing. And I've been wrecking my mind over the past week of like, what linebacker, what safety, what third cornerback are you really going to throw at Quez Watkins? It's going to have to be a mixture of some of that, because he just is so good. I really do feel like, and maybe I'm overhyping him, but I really do like him.
I don't think you're overhyping him. I just, I don't think he's a volume guy. That's the only thing. So I think that's going to always like impact the perception of him, because he's not going to be stacking up 1,000-yard seasons. But I think he can be really like efficient in his role in terms of making a big play and, being a go-to guy when things break down.
Definitely. And now the last question I want to ask you, I want to ask you about this team overall, right? Like a lot of teams, a lot of people are very high on this team. A lot of people are throwing out, we're top this, we're top that. I want to ask you, what do the Eagles still have to do, in your opinion, to get to that top 5 team where, everybody wants us to be a top 5 this, top 5 that? What do you think the Eagles still need to do to kind of get there?
The first answer, Joe, is like, prove it. You know what I mean? It's one thing to talk about all this on paper, but you go out there and you just assume you're going to be great. I mean, you'll be humbled pretty quickly. We've seen that with different Eagles teams over the years. So going out there and actually putting the work in and proving it, and I'm not concerned about that part, but I'm saying you got to do it. It's one thing to talk about it here in June, and another thing to see it happen on the field. I mean, the biggest thing to me, the biggest question mark remaining for this team is Jalen Hurts. Like, how good can Jalen Hurts be? I think we know at this point that the Eagles can win with Jalen Hurts. We saw that last year. But can they win because of Jalen Hurts? I don't think we've seen that yet, and especially against like really good teams and really good quarterbacks. I sound like a broken record to anyone who listens to me at all, but who are the best quarterbacks that Jalen Hurts has really gone up against and the Eagles have come out on top of? And I know, again, quarterback wins aren't necessarily a real thing, but like the point being, the Eagles haven't really gone up against a really good team, and Jalen Hurts has led them to victory over. And it just hasn't happened. We really struggled with the good teams last year, including their playoff loss to the Bucs, where they weren't even competitive in the game. So that's really a big question mark I think he has to answer, especially if you're eventually giving this guy a big contract. Can he go up against Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or who's on the schedule this year, like an Aaron Rodgers or Dak Prescott? Just let's take the Cowboys just for them. Jalen Hurts 0-2 against them, and both games were blowout losses. I'd like to see that change. So I think Jalen Hurts, has the potential to take a step forward with all these pieces around him and the improvements and the best offensive line in the NFL and all these good things, but he has to go do it. So let's see if he can.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And I think people are starting to come around to it, because I was there last year. I'm going to be 100% honest. And I was just kind of like, I'm not seeing him go out there and win us the game. I need to go see him win us the game. Not all these fourth quarter, we're down by 20 and now look at him go. So I would love to see him improve. And if he does, I think that this is a scary, scary team. And I think that a lot of people are starting to kind of realize that. And I think that he's probably the main one that is realizing, this is my time. I have a whole lot around me. And I think they put him in a good position. So I'm excited for this season. But I was excited to get you on here, Brandon. I'm sorry I don't have the other Brandon. Usually we have the Brandon duo. I'm sorry I couldn't get him on today, but I'm excited to have you on, man.
Always a pleasure. I think I see him in the chat here, so I'll take that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I see him with the little hand raise emojis. Unless but yeah, it's always a good time. Thanks for having me, man.
Definitely, man. And we're going to get you back on. It's not going to be 10 months till the next time. I can promise you that. But I am going to get you out of here. I appreciate you so much, Brandon. Have a great one, brother.
You too, Joe. Thanks.
So that was Brandon Lee Gowton. That was a lot of fun, man. I always enjoy having him on the show, man. He's a wealth of knowledge, and you have to love that. I appreciate everybody in this chat. Let's get some shout-outs before I do get out of here. Shout out to my guy, Brandon, making his presence known. I love it. What's going on, Ryan Rowe? What's going on, Rock the Artist? Who else we got in here that I haven't said hi to? If I didn't say hi to you, say what up so I can make sure I get to you on spoken words. I don't think I said what up. Dean will be the fourth linebacker when Reddick moves up. That'll be interesting. That will be interesting. But I appreciate all you guys tuning in, man. Definitely be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. I am going to probably be live till later on tonight around 7:30. It's a tentative date. We got Ross Tucker coming on. So definitely come through for that. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. But other than that, y'all know what it is. It is Fly Eagles Fly. And we are out here. Peace.
Everywhere, this is for you.
Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird gang nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling with Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man saw Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randolph. Season here, early time to do them in. Your boy Philly Fresco, thanks for tuning in.